After doing some research on how cults work and form, this was literally the perfect way to get people into joining a cult. Hello everybody and welcome back to Chiquito Cam. In this video, I'll be explaining how my church was founded as an ex-Pentecostal, or should I say an ex-cult member. My church was a very small church with approximately 30 to 40 members, and I do not want to say the location, but it was somewhere in New Mexico. And so I've attended that church ever since I was born for the most part. I did live in California for 3 years, but I was in a different Pentecostal church before moving closer to the New Mexico one. So technically when I was around 4 years old, I was involved in the church. My grandma on my mom's side was actually one of the co-founders of the church, and so my family on my mom's side was mostly involved. My family on my dad's side was religious as well, but it was a mix of like different denominations like Baptist, Catholic, Mormon, and non-denominational. But on my mom's side, you were either Pentecostal or Catholic. So I know I already mentioned that my grandma was co-founder of the church, but who was the other founder? My grandpa, also on my mom's side, had a step-sibling, and we were going to name her Brenda, just to hide the names here, but her name was Brenda, and she mostly was the one responsible for the creation of the church. Brenda claimed that she had a supernatural experience with God in the room that she did laundry in. And she claimed that she was overcome by the power of God, and she started speaking in tongues or in another language that she doesn't know. And so she received revelation from God that she would open a church one day. When she talked about this story, she also said that she initially didn't really want to do that, or she felt unworthy, and so she said that God insisted that she did it anyway. I find it very interesting reflecting on this because after doing some research on how cults work and form, this was literally the perfect way to get people into joining a cult or having a so-called religious experience or a religious encounter with God. Now, I have no idea how my grandma was involved in the opening of the church, as she is not here today and she never talked about it, but I would assume it's because Brenda, right, was step siblings with her husband, my grandpa, and so she probably told her about the experience she had in her laundry room. Just please don't take this as facts, as I am only inferring because I wasn't like alive at the time, but Brenda did tell about her supernatural experience when she was on the pulpit preaching about it, and when I was in the church and when she was still alive. Now my mom, she wasn't involved in the church until she was a little bit older, as my grandma wasn't always Pentecostal or even religious, but when my grandma turned religious and founded the church, that's when my mom became Pentecostal. And I remember my mom told me that my grandma or her mom was very hard on her and very strict with her, which can explain why my mom treats me the same way, which I think is honestly like generational trauma. My mom also told me that when she became religious, there was a time where she was having like struggles with her faith and that she wasn't involved in the church anymore. However, there was a time where she was about to be in a car accident, and if I can remember correctly, she was also pregnant with my older brother, and that she said that she prayed to God even though she wasn't religious at the time or the moment, and that God miraculously like guided her car so that she wouldn't crash. So after this experience, that's when she went like back into being a Pentecostal and more involved with the church. And I'm planning on making like another video on how religion uses vulnerability as like a recruiting mechanism. So stay tuned for that. So Brenda, right, the main church founder, was pastor of the church for a very long time. She was very strict and appeared to be like super holy. I remember feeling like very intimidated by her, and sometimes like I would even think that if I did something bad, she would know about it. And she was like very highly respected in my church, and like everyone in the church would do everything that she would say or do For example, people would often like say we need to be like more like Pastor Brenda. So it was like almost like everyone was like admiring or even worshiping her. Pastor Brenda would sometimes be very stern and almost kind of rude, especially if like she caught you in sin or if you did something bad. She was the perfect example of a cult leader. When she passed away, her daughter took over and she became the new pastor. She claimed that she didn't want to be the pastor and that God should be the pastor of the church, but she eventually became the pastor and things have not changed ever since. When the original pastor, or Pastor Brenda, right, passed away, people would often quote some parts of her sermons and use her as an example. So yeah, they really like Pastor Brenda. Alright guys, so we have reached the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and please give a thumbs up on this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all in the next video.